Hi everybody, meteorologist Kate Bilo here. It's Friday night, it is 9:05, and thank you for joining me for a little web chat to wrap up Severe Weather Week. We've had web chats from all of our meteorologists this week covering a variety of different topics. I hope you've learned a few things or maybe just enjoyed a few of the pieces we've done for you here on Severe Weather Week. It's always a good reminder as we head into severe weather season to make a plan, figure out how to implement that plan, and also just to better understand the different types of severe weather. So I'm going to take you through a few different topics. We're going to go through basically everything severe weather related, just kind of a general recap of all the things we've talked about this week. And I also have you guys loaded up here on the iPad. So if you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you want to share any severe weather stories, feel free to do so. I will be watching. Let me see if I can pull that up for you right now. But again, it's been a really great week and a great time to do this because we are really seeing everything come into focus for severe weather season. We've been seeing these swings in temperature. That's really how you get severe weather. You have these temperature clashes. When the jet stream dives to the south, you get this polar air to the north and warmer air to the south. That's why the springtime is the most volatile season for severe weather, because that's when you have those clashes of air masses. And when you get a differential of cold and warm and also moist and dry air, that's when you get the clashes. That's when severe weather really likes to break out. There is a secondary severe weather season actually in the fall, which makes sense because, again, that's another time of volatility. Let's talk a little bit, if we can go to our full graphics here, about our severe weather ingredients. What do you need for severe weather to occur? Well, first and foremost, you need heat. You need moisture, you need mild temperatures and high dew points. Generally speaking, dew points in the 60s or better will yield you the threat for severe weather. It can happen with dew points lower, it can happen with cooler air in place, but certainly for a major severe weather outbreak, warmth and moisture, two necessary ingredients. You also need some sort of lifting mechanism. It's often a cold front, and that's why we see storms form along a cold front as it moves through, because again, you're pitting that colder, drier air mass up against a warmer, moister air mass. It lifts the air and lifts that warm air over the cold air denser than warm air, and you start to get that clash that lifts, again, creates your lift and creates the threat for thunderstorms. Lifting can be as simple as a pop-up thunderstorm on a summer afternoon when you heat a parcel of air at the surface and that rises into the atmosphere. That's your lift, and that creates the threat for a thunderstorm. So wind shear is another big component of severe weather, and there are two different types of wind shear: speed shear and directional shear. If you have both, and you have both very strongly, you get the threat for tornadoes because that creates rotation in the atmosphere. Low-level jet will also feed into thunderstorms. If you get that low-level area of concentrated winds feeding into these thunderstorms, that'll create those very strong winds aloft. I'm trying to pull up your questions here. It's not loading for me, but I will keep trying to do so. Make sure you keep bringing them in. Let's talk a little bit about severe storm criteria. What is a severe thunderstorm? We hear this term a lot. We talk about severe thunderstorm watches, severe thunderstorm warnings. So the actual definition of a severe thunderstorm, it has to produce at least one of the following. Just one, not all three. It has to produce either hail at least an inch in diameter. It has to produce wind gusts of 58 miles an hour or better, and or a tornado. So one of the three, not all three. Not all severe storms have all three. Certainly not all severe storms produce tornadoes. They are still severe. So 58 miles per hour, that's the threshold for wind at least, and hail is about a quarter size, is an inch in diameter. So again, that's what we're looking at for a severe thunderstorm criteria. Let's talk about a watch versus a warning, because we see this happen a lot in the summer months. We get a severe thunderstorm watch, and I've heard people before say, oh my gosh, we're under a tornado watch, or oh my gosh, we're under a severe thunderstorm watch. What a watch basically means is that the ingredients are there. The ingredients are in place for severe weather to take place. It can last for several hours. It can encompass an entire state or a large portion of a state. And sometimes you get several hours of advance notice. Sometimes at 8 o'clock in the morning, they'll issue a severe thunderstorm watch or a tornado watch for late that afternoon or that night. So your response when you hear a severe thunderstorm watch pop up is just stay aware and be alert and listen for warnings, because warnings are the more imminent danger. Warning means these usually only last for 20 minutes to an hour at best. It means the storms are happening. The storms are moving through. They're usually much smaller areas, more like portions of counties or a metro area. You only have minutes of advance notice with this, and it means basically this is in progress. This is happening right now. Your response to a severe thunderstorm warning would be to take action immediately, and that's definitely a big difference. So if you hear a tornado warning, that means tornadoes are happening. They're either radar detected or they've been spotted. A severe thunderstorm warning means this is actually happening. And these are issued by the National Weather Service. So you can get alerts on your phone. If you have the CBS Philly weather app, you can get alerts to pop up there as well. Chelsea made this really fun little graphic, or really fun little difference between the watch and a warning. So this would be a cupcake watch. If you want a cupcake and you're on alert that cupcakes could happen, you've got all the ingredients in place, but there are no cupcakes just yet. So we're on a cupcake watch. Here's a cupcake warning. There it is. It's right there for you to eat. Cupcake warning means this is happening. It's in place. It's been spotted, and it is happening. The ingredients have all come together, and that watch has turned into a warning. I thought that was a really cute way to illustrate it. Thanks, Chelsea, for that. Now, when severe weather strikes, of course, you want to go to your trusted weather sources. CBS 3 newscasts, we are on with you at all times. We'll cut into broadcasts as well, especially if a tornado warning strikes. Generally speaking, tornado warning in our metro area, we go on the air immediately. Severe thunderstorm warnings, we usually scroll at the bottom of the screen. If you don't have, maybe you lost power and you don't have access to your newscasts, our CBS mobile weather app will have pop-up warnings. You can even have my voice, if that doesn't drive you crazy, pop up and say, there's been a severe thunderstorm warning issued for your area. I've got to tell you, that freaks me out a little bit when it happens to me. Also, AM/FM radio stations, NOAA weather radios, and EAS alerts are good ways to get your severe weather information. So your trusted weather sources are always who you want to go to. Now, the SPC is the Storm Prediction Center. They're located in Norman, Oklahoma. So when we talk about a severe weather risk, and we'll show you all the different categories that pop up on the map here, this is what the risk means. Now, generally speaking, here in Philadelphia, we're usually under either a marginal risk or a slight risk, sometimes an enhanced risk. It's very rare in our neck of the woods to get a moderate risk or a high risk. I haven't seen a high risk very often in my entire career. Probably I can count on both my hands, or maybe even on one hand, how many times I've seen a high risk. That happens when a major tornado outbreak is forecast. Moderate risk happens a little more often. That means widespread severe storms are likely. Usually in our neck of the woods, we get a slight risk, scattered severe storms possible. Enhanced risk means numerous severe storms are possible. So I really appreciate you guys tuning in. I do have access to some of your questions now. Let me scroll through them. Donna says, now when are we finally getting warmer weather? Well, Donna, if you watched our broadcast earlier, you know that it's coming next week. It looks like by Tuesday, temperatures will be in the upper 70s. And as we head into Wednesday and Thursday, we're talking about temperatures in the 80s. So, of course, now we're talking about severe weather. Don't have any severe weather in the forecast for next week, but with conditions like that, when you got temperatures in the mid 80s and high humidity, which we'll be feeling next week, feeling like summer, that definitely increases the chances for severe weather. Okay, John Benner says, if you could choose between taking a trip to go storm chasing in Kansas for a week or a cruise to the Caribbean, which one would you pick? I got to be 100% honest. I would pick the cruise to the Caribbean because at least I wouldn't be putting my life in danger. I have little kids at home, but I've always wanted to go on a storm chase. It's a completely different kind of vacation, so to speak. It's more of an adventure vacation than anything else. And one of these days I'm going to do it. Maybe when my kids are a little older and I can bring them with me and kind of stay out of harm's way. I would like to go with an experienced storm chaser. And that's something you want to remember, even if you're an amateur severe weather enthusiast, you don't want to rush out into the path of a tornado. Do it with experience. Stay safe. And remember, if you hear thunder, you can be struck by lightning. And that's something we talked about earlier this week as well. A lot of people get a little kind of careless about lightning. I know even growing up, we used to watch thunderstorms roll in from the front porch. It's kind of neat to watch. You stand outside and you watch the dark clouds roll in. But even if you just hear that low growl of thunder in the distance, you can be struck by lightning. There's a thing called bolt from the blue, which means usually you get thunder and lightning right in the center of a thunderstorm, but every once in a while it can form on the very leading edge of a thunderstorm or on the very back edge of a thunderstorm. Sometimes lightning can strike even when skies have cleared. So sometimes people go outside too quickly after a thunderstorm passes, and actually this bolt from the blue or a lightning strike on the back edge of a thunderstorm can actually kind of wrap around and strike them. So the rule of thumb is when thunder roars, stay indoors, and generally speaking, you want to wait 30 minutes from the last rumble of thunder before you go outside. It's kind of like that rule they had when we were growing up. You can't go in the pool for 30 minutes until after you eat, 30 minutes after thunder rumbles, and then you can get back outside. Let's see if we have any other comments. Let me scroll through. Michael Trotman, who's one of our weather watchers, says, hi Kate. Sadly, I've seen a high alert. Today was the anniversary of the 2011 tornado outbreak in and around Metro Atlanta. When I was there, it was unreal. I remember that one, and yeah, that was a high high risk. And, you know, the good thing is that we have these advanced warning systems. We have the SPC, which was able to come out that morning or sometimes the day before and put out a high risk and basically say, hey, this is happening. It hasn't even happened yet. The storm hasn't even formed yet, but the ingredients are there. Now so the risk categories are issued usually a day or two in advance. They come out even before a watch. So you have your risk category. If you see moderate or high, you know you could be in trouble. Then you have the watch, then you have the warning. And I often think about people back in the day, back in the mid 1900s or in the early 1900s, in the 1800s, who didn't have any sort of this warning. They didn't have tornado sirens. They didn't have the SPC. You know, they didn't have a lot of this stuff. And so when these storms would come up on them, they would come very, very quickly and cause a lot more death and destruction because people weren't ready for them. So our warning system has come such a long way. We're still improving it, and the National Weather Service really does a great job. And then we as broadcast meteorologists have to disseminate that information to the public as well. Let's see. April showers bringing May severe weather, says Michelle. Yeah, let's hope we don't get too much May severe weather here. Norma says traveling to Philly tomorrow morning, rainy weekend. It does look like there's going to be a couple of showers, maybe a thunderstorm tomorrow afternoon, but for the most part, the weekend looks relatively quiet. I do think Sunday is going to feel a little bit on the chilly side. So let's talk a little bit more about severe weather. I'm going to pull up, let me just scroll through my graphics real quick and see what I have. Let's talk about lightning a little bit because these are some interesting facts about lightning. Lightning is 50,000 degrees. That's not a typo. 50,000 degrees. That makes it 5 times hotter than the sun's surface. It's hotter than the surface of the sun. So if you get struck by lightning, very, very bad situation. And lightning can travel at 200 million miles per hour. It can cause water to vaporize. So often we see when a tree gets struck by lightning, it just explodes. That's because a tree and its roots and its leaves and its branches store so much water. If it gets struck by lightning at that temperature, the tree can just completely explode and vaporize. Lightning is no joke, and that's why we want to be very, very serious about the fact that you need to go inside if you hear any rumbles of thunder. Heat lightning. Let's talk about heat lightning because I don't know about you, but growing up around here, we used to be outside in the evenings in the summertime chasing fireflies or whatever, and we would see that little flash, that little orange flash on the horizon, and my parents always used to say, "Oh, don't worry about it. That's just heat lightning." And so I probably, like many of you, if so, chime in and let me know, grew up thinking that heat lightning was an actual thing, that it's a different thing than lightning. It's just kind of this, when it's hot out, you get a flash in the sky, but that's not actually a thing. Heat lightning is no different from any other lightning. I don't mean to call out my parents here, but heat lightning is not a thing, Mom and Dad. It's no different from any other lightning. They're flashes seen from far off thunderstorms, far off in the distance. Now, probably safe, and the reason why is because you don't hear thunder. If you don't hear thunder, the storm is probably far away enough that you can be outside without being in harm's way. But still, if you see lightning on the horizon, you probably want to start heading inside. These usually happen in the warm summer months when you get these pop-up afternoon thunderstorms driven, again, by those ingredients of severe weather, the heat and humidity, and that's why usually it's kind of happening on a hot, muggy summer night. That's why I got the name heat lightning, but heat lightning is actually not a thing at all. Michael Troutman also says, think about folks in Galveston, Texas, Labor Day. Oh, that storm back in the 1920s. No warning that a Category 5 hurricane was headed their way. That remains one of the deadliest storms in history, and it's because there were no hurricane warnings. Now we're able to track hurricanes from the time it blows off the African coast as a little wave, a little dust off the African coast, and you see this wave form, and you track it all the way across the Atlantic Ocean. Sometimes we'll track a storm for a week plus before the storm actually hits. Sometimes we get to the point where we're like, we've been talking about this for so long and it's still 3 days away. Back in the day, they didn't have that capability. They weren't able to do that, and that's pretty scary stuff when you're thinking about a storm like that. Let's talk about another lightning myth here, counting the seconds between thunder and lightning. So when kids especially ask me, what is thunder? I always say it's the sound lightning makes. Lightning is like an electrical charge that, of course, hits very quickly. Thunder is the sound of lightning. So When you hear thunder, you're basically hearing the rumble or the crack of that lightning catching up with it. But of course, light travels faster than sound. So you see lightning first, then you hear the thunder. So if you want to figure out just a general rule of thumb, how far away a storm is, you count the seconds between thunder and lightning and divide by 5. That'll estimate how many miles away the storm is. Light travels more quickly than sound, of course. So when you're in one of those storms where you see the flash of lightning and then 5 seconds later, or not even 5 seconds later, half a second later, you hear the clap, that's when you know the storm is basically right on top of you. And then you can start to see as you head away from it, or as the storm moves away from you, you'll start to see the difference there. So let's do a little true or false. True or false? Rubber tires provide protection by insulating you from the ground. That's a good question, because that's another thing I was told as a kid that's kind of erroneous. I'll spoil that. That is false. I was always told, oh, you go into a car because it grounds the lightning or whatever. Not true. A car can be struck by lightning just as easily as you can standing on the side of the road. But I did learn some interesting facts about lightning. Men get struck by lightning. I think 79% of lightning fatalities over a 10-year period, I think 2006 to 2016, were men. And it would be easy to make a joke like, oh, men are more reckless, they go outside and in the thunderstorms. But really, it's because a lot of these deaths occurred while doing things like fishing, boating, playing golf, playing soccer, or working outside, working on a roof, working in a construction facility or a place like that. And of course, women do those things too, but generally speaking, a greater percentage of men tend to do those activities, and that's why men are more likely than women to be struck by lightning. You're also much more likely to be struck by lightning in the summer months. Lightning fatalities mainly happen in the summer, because people are outside enjoying the nice weather, and also more so on the weekends, because you're not stuck in the office and you're outside enjoying the nice warm weather. So that's some interesting facts. And also, golf is not the deadliest lightning-related sport. It's actually soccer. Very interesting, maybe because of a big, wide open field instead of a tree. Lightning facts: you should shelter under a tree during a thunderstorm. Do you remember that? Well, we just talked about how trees can be completely vaporized by 50,000-degree lightning, so that's false. You would not want to be under an exploding tree during a thunderstorm. And true or false, lightning never strikes twice in the same place. That is also false. Lightning can strike twice in the same place, and we've heard about people being struck by lightning twice in their lives, or possibly even more than that. So definitely some interesting food for thought there. So I'm kind of scrolling through my same graphics I already had there. Let me pull up a couple more things, and then we will start to get going. I just want to talk quickly about tornadoes and the different types of tornadoes, or the different tornadoes that have struck the Philadelphia area. We don't get tornadoes very often. We are lucky. So we do get them, but they're usually short-lived. They're usually on the weaker scale. We use a scale called the Enhanced Fujita scale, which has 5 categories of tornadoes. That's determined looking at the damage pattern after the tornado strikes. So since 1950, here's a list of our tornadoes in and around Philadelphia. May 18th of 2011 was the last time one was confirmed. And then we go back to 1999, 1998, and all the way back to 1958. So not very many. The greatest number of tornadoes in our general area, so those tornadoes I just showed you are just for Philadelphia County, Chester County, Lancaster County, Berks County, areas off to the west definitely have the greater percentages of tornadoes, and also portions of Delaware as well. So our far western suburbs definitely more prone to seeing tornadoes. So if you hear a tornado warning, I don't know if you saw earlier today, but we had a really cute piece. I went and talked to some kids about tornadoes. They were probably more well-informed and calm about this than many adults I know. They knew seek shelter immediately, stay away from the windows, interior room or basement, stay away from windows. We say this all the time. You want to get into an interior room with no windows if you can, if you don't have a basement, and of course, stay alert with CBS 3. Straight line winds a little different than tornadoes. Straight line winds happen when a cold or dry air parcel sinks rapidly through a thunderstorm. The air expands outward and you get these straight line winds. They are also something called a microburst, which kind of fans the winds out in a circular pattern, and those have a circular damage pattern, which is a pretty interesting thing. Microbursts and macrobursts are often responsible for airplane crashes. They happen very quickly, and these winds can easily take down an airplane. So that is all I've got for you about severe weather. This evening, we recapped a bunch of different stuff. We had so many good things this week. We talked about flooding. We talked about hail and hail sizes. The largest hail was the size of a volleyball. Lauren had a volleyball on the set. Matt talked about tornadoes on Monday. Katie talked about flooding and flash flooding. Chelsea talked about the difference between flash floods and floods. Very important to know, flash floods usually happen within 6 hours of an event. Floods usually happen a little bit later once the streams and creeks start to rise. So definitely worth knowing about as we head into severe weather season. Tonight at 11, I'm going to talk about what the deadliest form of extreme weather is. Over the past 30 years, one type of weather has been more deadly than all the others, and it may not be what you think. That's coming up tonight at 11 on CBS 3. So I appreciate you tuning in the web chat. Let's see if there's any other questions. Phil says airplane lightning strikes. Airplanes can be struck by lightning. They can withstand lightning strikes when they're in the sky, but certainly if a plane is descending perhaps or starting to rise, a lightning strike could be more dangerous. But microburst winds usually are more dangerous for planes, especially if they're taking off or landing, because that can easily take a plane down. Lorraine says, hope we don't hear thunder tomorrow. All I want to see is sunshine tomorrow in Cedarville, New Jersey. I hope so as well. It looks like maybe around dinner time, a couple of showers or storms will rumble through, and that's about it. But I'll have that full forecast for you, of course, coming up on CBS 3 at 11, on the CW Philly at 10. If you go to bed a little early, you can tune into us on the CW Philly. But I appreciate you guys tuning in for the web chat. I appreciate you tuning in all severe weather week long, and let's hope we don't have too active of a severe weather season here in Philadelphia. I'm sure we'll pick up some storms, but we'll be there with you the entire way. So happy Friday night. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you on CW Philly at 10 and CBS 3 at 11. Bye.